And we really celebrate those who are part of our leadership, really driving the business forward. So we have a creative committee, and as reflective as our membership is, we have honorees across the board in fashion, in beauty, in sustainability, media. And the way it's grown is, of course, the conversations of what everyone is doing, in the industry, how people are contributing to the industry. We had a very big focus this year on fashion and art because they inform one another and there's such a conversation. Creativity is from the heart and the soul, in my opinion, and it really drives, it's a life force, for so many, and really celebrating, those elements and that vision is so important.
Hello, I'm Mike Ryan. I'm the Chief Networking Officer at PIMS, and welcome to our second season of Minutes with Mike. Now in my 33rd year at PIMS, I've had the privilege of partnering with companies both large and small, supporting their PR and marketing through customized fulfillment and distribution that delivers measurable impact on their brand perception, boosts positive affinity, and fuels their overall brand performance. And throughout my career, I've had the chance to work alongside many talented folks. This is their story. On this show, we'll sit down with some of the world's top marketing and business thought leaders to learn more about their success, how they got there, how marketing helped them achieve their goals, what strategies they used, and what inspires them. Please join me on this journey as we learn from those who are changing the way we think about business. So sit back, enjoy. You're listening to Minutes with Mike.
Welcome, everybody, to Minutes with Mike. Today, I have the honor of our new guest is Maryanne Grisz. Welcome, Maryanne.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here, Mike.
Maryanne is the president and CEO of FGI, the Fashion Group International. We're very excited to have you here today. I have so many questions I want to ask you, but it wasn't too long ago that we were first introduced through mutual partners and friends to the organization, and we got to go to the award ceremony. And if you have not heard of FGI, this is going to be a fantastic episode to tune in because she's going to tell you all about it. And if you haven't already been in touch with them, this is going to be the touch point that you're going to want to. So let's start with you, Maryanne, before we get into FGI. So, you're one of, obviously, the world's leading philanthropic leaders. FGI is known world round through the fashion and beauty circles. Where did it start for you? Where did it all begin? How did you get the bug, so to speak, for the world of fashion?
Well, it's twofold. Certainly growing up, I had a huge appreciation for clothing and fashion, and then was introduced to fashion magazines. So I think that in many of us, there's a creativity that if it's ignited, it could be across any of the arts. It could be music, fashion, art, writing. They inform each other. So for me, it was really fashion and the visual piece of it. I'm from Philadelphia, and I went to law school. So my goal was really to be in business. And as I was working through law school, I entered the fashion industry. It was really how I worked my way through law school. And I loved it. I loved it. And after I graduated from law school, I opened my own production company. But during that time, I was producing shows and modeling for companies like Macy's and really creating shows for them. And my mentor said, you must join Fashion Group. So as an entrepreneur and really someone coming up and really aspirationally wanting to be in the industry, Fashion Group became my community. I joined as a member, and then I saw the global network. So I really reached out. I have lifelong friends through Fashion Group and just continued. I was the regional director in Philadelphia. And then when I moved to New York, I continued to volunteer. I was on the chairing the committee for Career Day and continued my production career, my production company through fashion and film, and Fashion Group was my community.
Running an organization, being the CEO and president of an organization is a beyond full-time job, right? But on top of that, these events that you stage are absolutely top-notch and wonderful. And I know you have a huge hand, and certainly the team supporting you around you do a wonderful job with that. Did your early training set you up to sort of fit into that mold too? Because it's one thing to be a business leader, and it's a whole nother thing to sort of being able to roll your sleeves up and dive into it and do, the nuts and bolts of it. And of course, that's how we got our exposure to you directly is, our partnership with PIMS and FTI. So how did that come about? You had some training in that, or you were just sort of drawn to events?
I was drawn to events. I believe that I'm a very visual thinker, So I saw choreography and production, so that became my business, and I produced global events. So I'm really a producer at heart, and that was my business as I was a member of Fashion Group and also the traits, and what I contributed to Fashion Group. And of course, all of the events, thank you very much for the compliment. They are built with heart and soul by committees and our internal staff. What I can say as far as putting my producer hat on, that is really how I came in-house at Fashion Group. Not only chairing some committees, but I look at everything really from a producer's eye, and that is really putting together all the details and all the elements and creating something that is an experience. So in 2012, Margaret Hayes, who was the president for 25 years, highly respected and really brought Fashion Group as a business organization forward, asked me to come in-house and to produce our tentpole events and to manage the calendar. So Night of Stars, the Rising Star Awards, it's really something that's from the heart because it's really driving the business forward, but also creating an experience that's meaningful for our members and community, which is really about connection. We have a hashtag because connections matter. So thank you. I'm so glad that you attended and we met and that we've worked together. That's what it's about, really creating connections and moving the business forward.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about, obviously the Night of the Stars and the Rising Star Award. That Night of Stars, people call it the Academy Awards of Fashion. So we're going to
Oh,
dig
thank
a little
you.
bit deeper into that as well. FGI, just for a little background. So I was doing some research. Was it 1928, 1930 is when it first
Yes.
started?
From our materials, certainly, it was created from a luncheon of women business leaders at the time. So in 1928, 1930 was the time of the Depression. And at the time, men were really leading the industries across the board: beauty, fashion, retail, publishers. So this was a group of very accomplished women that really had the vision to want to create a women's leadership community. And from that luncheon, Fashion Group International was created really to support fashion in the industry, but also to create a community to share resources and really support one another. And some of our founding members were Carmel Snow, who was the Harper's Bazaar editor, Edna Woolman Chase, who was the Vogue editor. We also had Helena Rubinstein, Elizabeth Arden, and shortly right after, Eleanor Roosevelt came on as an
Amazing.
early member to support because she was not the first lady at the time, but the wife of the governor, and she represented the garment workers. So we always had connection through all of the industries. And that's what really makes Fashion Group a unique organization because our membership are all professional, but we're across all industries. And now we have 26 regions globally. So there's really that global professional connection and network.
It's funny because we have in common, there's a lot of different clients that of course we work with that are part of your organization and vice versa. I had invited you to be our guest to the CEW Beauty Awards
Yes.
last year, and you were kind enough to join. But I wasn't surprised to see that you knew a lot of people in the room. People were coming by and saying hello, and in my brain, I said, of course, this is exactly what it's meant to be. There's no fashion and it's beauty, but those worlds coincide together and work together. There's so many different times where fashion, beauty collapse together to do outreaches, and it only made sense that you were like well known to both. So I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but it was really wonderful.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I have a huge respect for CEW and, of course, the beauty industry and their mission because we have a beauty component that, it's great to see some of our members there. And, for Fashion Group, we encourage collaboration. So that is also one of the key pieces for us as a membership organization that really has members across all of the sectors and industries is that we encourage collaboration. So I was so thrilled to be there
Yeah.
because it's great to see colleagues and it's always about how everyone can network, do business, support one another, and share resources.
It's really nice to be able to attend that, but being surrounded and supported by so many great folks too while we're there, it's great. I wanted to ask you, so Night of Stars, I've heard many people call it the Academy Awards of Fashion. And if you go to this, so this is just an absolute epic night. You come in and it feels like the Academy Awards and everybody's dressed to the nines and you get to rub elbows. Yeah, I did so many double takes while I was in the room because I recognize faces and I see this. And so many famous people are going around and it's just a wonderful night to come together. And I was curious on that. Like, I think I read that that's been going on for, is it 40 years or 42, something like that, 42 years. So congratulations for keeping that going. How has that grown over the years? Like what has come from that, especially like things around the pandemic, right? Where of course you can't have the awards ceremony. How did you sort of pivot around that and how has it grown over your tenure?
Well, the Night of Stars will be in its 42nd year this year, which is super
Amazing.
exciting.
It's unbelievable.
Yes, it started as a small event, and one of the early events was in the Rainbow Room. So we were super thrilled to go back to the Rainbow Room, very iconic New York, and it is our largest and most important fundraiser. And we really celebrate those who are part of our leadership, really driving the business forward. So we have a creative committee, and as reflective as our membership is, we have honorees across the board in fashion, in beauty, in sustainability, media. And the way it's grown is, of course, the conversations of what everyone is doing, in the industry, how people are contributing to the industry. We had a very big focus this year on fashion and art because they inform one another and there's such a conversation. Creativity is from the heart and the soul, in my opinion, and it really drives, it's a life force, for so many, and really celebrating, those elements and that vision is so important. How it's grown, we have Night of Stars in Dallas and also Mexico City. So I've attended both. So it's really incredibly dynamic to have this, signature event hosted in Mexico City. They have 13 honorees and everyone from Mexico City, not just designers, but media, television, music. They always have a music performance. Of course, every city has a different personality. So there's, they have two performances of music. And then in Dallas, also fabulous, really honoring the best of the best.
Another ceremony that you do, I get this sense of community, certainly in and around the beauty world and the fashion world, but it's no stranger to FGI too, right? Like you have this thing called the Rising Star Awards where you sort of are introducing to the world these new opportunists that have, been part of your world that are going to be, soaring to the top. People like Tory Burch, that I know has been a winner or a nominee at least in the past.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about the Rising Star Awards and then this whole sense of community, like how they give back once they're nominated or once they win. You don't really lose them ever. They're always sort of a part of this FTI world and help to bring new membership in. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, thank you. The Rising Star Awards is really something that's from my heart because, as we all know, that, one, it's challenging I don't have to really even say that, but someone who really puts themselves out there as a creator, designer, it's a vulnerable place to really put your work out there. Then you've got the other side of the coin, which is the business side. So the Rising Star Awards, and we really lean into our community to nominate who are the rising stars in beauty, in apparel, in fine jewelry. And we really look at the innovation and creativity and also their business acumen. And the goal of the Rising Star Awards is really to acknowledge and support the next generation of our industry and talent across the industries. Now, what does that mean? Over the course of time, it's changed. The retail industry has really shifted and changes, not just because of the pandemic, but before the pandemic, there was a huge change and shift in the retail landscape, and it just continued. So we have found that creating a mentorship program and help to really support not only the winners, but the finalists with information. I mean, Fashion Group's mission is really to provide resources and education. And I can say that that is very, very strong focus for the Rising Star Awards. And those who have come through the program are Jason Wu, Tori Birch, as you said, Joseph Altazora, who was actually one of our speakers this summer. We did the Hampton Summer Series, and we did an event. Fern Malice interviewed him. And we love all of our rising stars who do, become a household name.
Yeah.
We're very lucky that they come back, they support, and really mentorship is very important element. And to really give the resources to navigate in the retail landscape, distribution.
That was a nice segue into my next question. With technology and AI the way it is today, right? And artificial intelligence and how it's affecting things like supply chain and manufacturing and design and of course fashion, right? As an organization that prides itself on the teaching element or the education element. How do you think that's changed in your world? Like, where do you see that going? How has it changed recently? How do people sort of cope with it? And where do you see it going in your end?
Technology is changing like lightning.
Nuts.
It's just amazing. I think what have found that our members are really looking to how to navigate that, how it can help them support what they're doing, especially for, entrepreneurs who really have limited resources. To answer your question, we create platforms and forums to be able to present the information and to provide really a showcase to ask questions and to, talk to leadership, who are creating new apps and, starting these conversations. But it's constantly changing. And it's important and if for myself, I mean, it's my obligation to educate myself. So am I creating an AI assistant? Am I also, I'm in the conversation of learning too. Can never stop learning. So it's very, very important to stay focused on, the zeitgeist of the industry.
And it affects every world too. So from like I mentioned with manufacturing and supply chain, but even like in my world with warehousing and fulfillment, like what used to be the norm changes almost daily, right? The expectations of clients to shrink the footprint of items like storage, the expectations of clients on delivery options and the speed in which to do it. So it all ties in again with that whole, we're all in this world together with the beauty and the fashion, the manufacturing and the warehousing. Everything is sort of connected with that. So I was really curious to see your end of things because you come at it from a different angle than I do. So it's good to see that we both sort of have the same perspective, the same thoughts.
Absolutely. One time I taught at Parsons and a few other colleges, and, I was always focused on the apparel supply chain, how they interact with one another. What is the timeline? How early do you need to create? And it's changing constantly,
Yeah.
made to order to the timing of Fashion Week to where brands are manufacturing, how to, into your point of delivery and distribution. It's a changing conversation daily.
One of the things that I also wanted to ask, it just popped into my brain just now, was, the word sustainability, right? It means different things to different people. So in my world, sustainability is being able to get things from point A to point B efficiently, on budget, and on time without a lot of waste, right? The days of shipping stuff with a lot of bubble wrapper, peanuts, and cardboard, people want to get away from that. And it's been happening for quite some time. And thankfully, that's the way the world is shifting, right? People want to use these packages as sort of gifting ideas or leave behinds, or they just eliminate the package altogether and just use an inner package, right? So on your end of things, how is that sustainability sort of circular fashion? How does that work on your end of the industry?
We do acknowledge leaders in the sustainability field. We have had over the years honorees at Night of Stars. Gabriella Hearst was an honoree in sustainability. Also in the Rising Star Awards, we have acknowledged and had support from brands who acknowledge new talent who are doing, great things in sustainability. There is the UN definition of sustainability. And I do believe, and from what I've heard from, members in our community, everyone does try their best. It could be upcycling, to your point, it could be packaging. I believe that, certainly where you are in the industry, you have a narrow focus on your industry and to try to do your best. Everyone can't do everything in sustainability.
Yeah, yeah.
So for us, it's really offering information and how to. Many brands are trying to manufacture. They would love to do more in sustainability, but they don't really know where to go. And it's also sometimes a cost factor. So for us, it's really offering as much education and information so that they can make their choices intelligently, with enough information. So we try to address that. Absolutely.
Since I've met you, you've always been a bit of an inspiration for me, just all that you do there. And, I feel like you're just so involved in that. And it really is who you are. And that comes across when I speak to you, and always been an inspiration. Is there an inspiration on your end? I know the previous president was a mentor, and is there a brand or somebody that maybe came up through the program or somebody that you look to that pops into your brain as an inspiration to you?
I can say there's a general and then, those in the industry who I respect. Certainly growing up, being in this position at Fashion Group, being a member of Fashion Group, and then being now in this position, I've had the opportunity to meet idols, who I've just respected over the years. Some being like Donna Karan. Donna Karan was a member in 1979 of Fashion Group, so,
That's
and you look
great.
at her career and she's always really spoken. Her vision has been her truth, her creativity, urban zen. She received an award in humanitarianism for Night of Stars. So that's certainly someone that I highly respect. And those that I've met in the industry that really have an integrity with how they approach their business, I have a huge respect for that. It's hard. It's hard to stay true to a path of something that you believe in and to have fairness. It's hard to do in this type of industry that is really built on sometimes commercialism,
Mhm.
and going to where the sales are. And so those who really stay true to their vision that comes from the heart, it's all built from the soul, in my opinion, all the creativity. When you're a designer or a creator, it comes from a very sacred place. So then you offer it, you refine it, and then you go into business with it. Then there's the business side, so there's that balance. So those who are able to really meld the two are really, I have a huge respect for.
Women in leadership, again, touched upon it a little bit in the opening, right? Like, it's yet another feather that you have to wear in your cap. You're not only running this large international organization and doing everything, in my opinion, the right way to make sure it functions efficiently and obviously, is the standout organization that it is. But like, as you progressed in your career, how did you sort of overcome some of the obstacles that were in the way to get you to be where you are today? Was there anything that sort of stands out in your brain that sort of was like a rock wall that you hit that you had to go around, or a glass ceiling that you had hit that you had to break through? Was there any sort of, did you ever have that feeling of like, this is just not going to be possible, and then do it?
Thank you for asking that. I don't believe that I've ever experienced because you're a woman, you can't advance. But I've always been an entrepreneur. So for me, I have always had a very individual path. So I would always try to keep my senses open and aware of the twists and turns needed to get to the goal. I also function very much with my eye on the ball at all times. So the path to get there, I don't really see them as blocks. I see them as challenges.
Yeah.
And then
Well said.
immediately I step back and think, how can I get around this? How can I do this differently? And one of the things too, certainly right now, is you have to move very quickly. You have to be very light on your feet and be able to just find, if this doesn't work here, you can't really sit there too long. You have to really just, look around quickly and find an alternative. So to answer your question, my career path has been really an accumulation of steps towards what I always have felt that was fulfillment for me, my goal in the world. Like, that's a little generic, but what has felt right in the moment. I was a film producer. I produced global events. When that project was over, a door opened, and I've said, that feels good. That feels like the right step to go in this direction, and I did it. So it's been a series of those types of things. So I've been very fortunate. Not always easy. There's been a lot of challenges. Like, for example, I produced a documentary, and as a producer, it's always putting together the elements, but it was a completely different landscape. It was in the fashion industry. It was called Dressed. But I created a hybrid marketing approach. So we did screenings at schools and, but it's not always easy, but always learning, which is a gift.
Yeah. It's so well said too, because I think a lot of times in today's day and age, for men and women, right? People see, a loss of a job or an industry they feel is kind of petering out, or the education they paid so much for, they're not really using it for what they're doing, right? Like, being able to pivot around those is what it's all about, right? If you're going to get to the next level, if you're going to get these opportunities for yourself, you almost have to insist that these things happen just so you can become better for them, right? Like, if I look back at all the misses that I've had along the way, that I, like, knocked myself in the head, and I'm like, damn it, this went wrong, and that I failed at that. But that's what makes you you, right? Like, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today if everything along the way was perfectly, all the dominoes fell perfectly, right? There's got to be some pitfalls along the way.
Oh, there's always a gift in any of the challenges. Some are very, very hard. And as the industry changes and shifts, they're very hard, very challenging. But there is a gift somewhere in it, I believe. But also, when you spoke to about AI and technology, it's like that could be an open door. Learning really helps in opening up paths. Maybe there's a piece that is a new type of job description, and I think that's being created. It certainly has been over the years, different types of job descriptions that have never been before. Really looking at what your strengths are and your weaknesses and, building on some of the weaknesses, but really knowing where your strengths are, I think is so important, and to build on that.
100%. You bring up, new technologies and stuff, and I'm curious. I wanted to ask you a question about social selling, right? This new landscape that's sort of popped up, these pop-up shops, right? But I'm talking more of like online shopping, the home shopping network, QVC. Those are not new, but I feel like brands that used to sort of look away from things like that are now getting involved in that. And now with TikTok and this TikTok shop, the brands of today are the influencers of yesterday, right? Like, influencers create their own fragrances, they create their own beauty fashion line, and 2 seconds later they're online selling it over social media. What is your take on that? This non-traditional approach to adapting in today's world.
Oh, I believe there are many opportunities for non-traditional selling. And it's part of technology. It's part of looking at the consumer behavior. It's the discovery. Where do they discover product?
Right.
Where are they looking to learn? TikTok shops and all of them are destinations for many, even just in leisure time scrolling.
Yes.
And it's those in the creative fields and the branding, they're experts there that know how to speak to their audience in a way to satisfy a need or a want, and really knowing what the consumer wants. So I believe these social selling, that's definitely a place of evolution, and it's across the board, you know, and it's shorter and shorter moments. People have to tell their story in what? Less than 8 seconds,
It's
less
true,
than
you
30.
know, being out front of FGI, right, like, that's another thing, like, today's technology, you know, we've been talking here for about 40 minutes, and something probably got developed in the time that we were talking, and you have to bring yourself up to speed on it, so,
Right.
I give you big kudos to that because, you know, just as you mentioned, things are changing moment by moment, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, but, you know, it's if you're gonna stay relevant in today's world, you have to at least know where you position yourself in that.
Absolutely, and how it can help, like ChatGPT and just all of these new technologies that are there to support, not replace, but to support,
Yes,
you know, and enhance
great
what
point.
you're doing. Make things easier so the time can be opened up for other things. And, you know, I'm planning to educate myself definitely as the holidays are coming up and over the next year is to really predict times when I can learn more. And that way I can certainly speak the language if I need to and help myself in my role and help the members and help our community to see what they may need.
Now I know who to lean on a little bit if I don't understand something. Shoot you a quick email. Marianne, how does somebody join FGI? Like we talked a little bit about community, but if I'm watching this podcast and I'm absolutely enthralled with FGI and you and getting involved, how does that happen?
FGI.org is our website. To be a professional member, we have different levels of membership. We have a thought leaders membership. New York is the global headquarters. So there's the New York membership, which includes a platinum membership, a patron membership, and then also executive member. We also have a junior executive associate membership, which is for those who have just come out of school in their first 3 to 4 years of business. And we're also creating a more extensive student membership, certainly the industry for tomorrow. When we do a partnership with Macy's, where we acknowledge fashion merchandising student in their junior or senior year in colleges around the country, and we have 27 schools that are I would say, under the umbrella of a region. Like, for example, FGI Dallas, you know, there's 6 schools there. So what we're doing is creating student memberships so that they can actually be mentored through the region and build their skill set and certainly learn about Fashion Group.
Wonderful. Well, I highly recommend it. Maryanne Grisz, thank you so much for your time. This has been wonderful. I look forward to seeing you again in the new year and certainly all the great events and being a partner. Your organization and my organization was one of the best things that we've ever done. And I hope you feel likewise.
Oh, 100%. You've been an amazing partner, certainly to introduce me to those in the industry that, you know, I should know. And so you're a connector in your organization. So thank you so much. And it's really been great to work together and partner. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody.